Alrighty, this episode we are going to paint an Alchemy flesh color and put it on his little chrome dome bonds and his hands. Well, actually he's wearing gloves, so that's easy. So just a basic intro into mixing paints and seeing how they look on top of the fundament that we did last episode. Flesh is always one of those weirdy ones for me. If you get something, this is called flesh tint, but it's way too light. Terracotta is closest, I always feel. Let me zoom out here. So I'm going to start with terracotta. Now, the other thing is we put on this brown fundament to make the shadows appear before we've even painted it, which means really we're going to want it in a kind of contrast medium or contrast paint sort of mode when we paint over. I like painting in layers that are somewhat translucent so you can build the layers up. So I'm going to use this Joe Sonia contrast medium. I'll put a link in the description. So let's have a go at doing flesh here and see what it looks like. So we're going to put some of this medium in. There we go. And I'm not going to be shy because I don't have the flesh bottle. So I'm going to make, like we did with the washes last episode, I'm probably going to make a whole bottle of it. That way I've got it. So we don't have to do this every time we do a miniature. So let's put some color on that. Oh, come on. There we go. And let's mix that in. There we go. Now this is still kind of opaque, I think. So what I am going to do, because you can, it's acrylic, just don't do too much, because I'm going to add a little bit of water, just to thin that down a bit. Again, the medium, if you thin it too much, the medium can't do its work properly, and you'll start to get stuff separate out. If you have good mediums, like, the ones that I use are pretty good and pretty forgiving. You can get away with a bit more, so I'm going to have just a little bit more. Again, we want these somewhat translucent. That means letting the light through, letting the lower layer of paint that we did to shine through a little bit. Which is really, that's all contrast paints do. So, what we can do, get a little test bod from last time, maybe here, and then a little bit on there, and then paint it. And I can see through it, so might put too much water in, but let's see. And make sure that it is a nice even layer. Alright, that's his bald head done. Let's see what it dries like. So, there we go. His shiny head is dry enough. And you can see that I move it. So where we added during the foundation phase, where we added the brown, it's in making his eyes darker and such. There are very subtle shadows that shine through from the underlayer, and easy to do. You saw how it was mixed, and again, I've got enough here so I can paint quite a few units. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to use the wash that we made on the first episode. I'm going to grab some of that to do his beard. So here's my wet palette. Let's grab some of that wash. Just one drop. That should be enough. Let's zoom in again. And let that dry. Okay, here we got our lens connect. We're going to look at painting the fabrics of his uniform. So the fabrics are like here on his shoulders, his legs, here the crosspiece, his robe, his other arm, etc., etc. Now to do that, what I want to do is use the color wheel. If we do the basic, I mean, a lot of Lands Connect are, so if we look at red, we want red in there. And then we go look at our triad on the red. So we're going to have red, blue, yellow. So if we take a look at that, I pulled those here. So I picked those, red, blue, yellow, primary colors, not a big deal. Now, the other thing, if we think about it, before we jump in here, come on, focus, there we go. A lot of times, if you look at Lands Connect, they're kind of quartered. So the blue, I figured what we'd do is use that for the cloak and the sash. And then the red and the yellow we'll use for the inside and the outside of the arms and under here and the legs. But a lot of times they'll be alternated. So what I was thinking of doing is doing a yellow inside, red outside, and then the same here, and then on the other quarters swapping it. So doing a red inside, yellow outside. So I think that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we've got to do is think about how much of this we want showing through, all that good stuff. The opacity of the colors we're going to make. And I kind of want to make them in the middle so I can use them for lots of stuff. If we can get consistent with how our paints are, then we can use the same technique on multiple models. So let's take a look here. So these are going to be from the medium. I'm just going to take the normal acrylic basic medium because these are just paints. They're not going to be washes or although, hang on a minute before I do that. We could use this. In fact, that's what I'm going to do because I want to layer it. I want the brown on this model to kind of bleed through a little. So let's try it with as a contrast paint. So there we go. Put some medium in there. And then the first one we're going to do, and because it's always a tough color, the way the pigments work is yellow. Yellow is always a pain in the butt color to play with. So I'm going to put quite a bit of actual color in. There we go. And then, if I can find a stirry stick, there we go. Let's start mixing this up. So I'm going to add just a little bit of water so it goes on easier. It's not thick, it's just a little too creamy for me. A little tiny bit of water to thin that down. Now that's going to make it horribly translucent, maybe too translucent, but try not to get it on you. There we go. So there we have our yellow, hopefully. So let me grab a brush. Let's see how this goes on. Oh, the camera does not like focusing. Do my best. So let's take a look at his arm here. Now remember, we've done it we hope, as a contrast paint. And it's got to be thick enough not to just run into all the low-lying areas, but not thick enough that it absolutely covers up the brown. So that's the inside there, inside there. Yep, just dropped him on his head. It'll be alright. So then we have done the inside yellow. Now I haven't done the outside yellow because I want to do the inside reds before I do the outside. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mix the red and then come back to the yellow to do the outside. So I'm kind of painting it from the inside out, if you see what I mean. Let's do the same thing we did with the yellow, but with the red. And again, it doesn't matter if you mix too much, you get the little tiny bottles and you've got it for next time. That's all done by eye, very scientific. Oh! Oh, yeah. Alright, so there's my red mixed. Now that's nice and creamy. I'm not going to add any water to that, and we'll just see how that goes on. We can always add water to it later. And the paint goes on really easy, because that's the way we made it. Now I'm going to do the inside of the legs. Yeah, sorry, my camera work's not brilliant. I concentrate on the model, I'm not concentrating on the camera. And then the camera decides it doesn't want to focus because my hands... Anyway, we'll get through it. By the time I've done that, if I want to, or if you want to, just come back and give it another going over here. Shit, I got my yellow there, never mind. So now I'll clean that and go get the yellow that we didn't do because we want to do the red on the inside. Now that band here, we can come back and get that later, but just blocking this stuff in first. And then I forgot the red on the inside of his... I always forget parts. There's a bit of red on the inside of his arm. Not because I got a handy. That'll do for that. Now we want to do the blue. Okay, because the blue is going to cover kind of bigger areas, I don't want it quite as translucent maybe, so I'm just going to use the normal medium and not the... So this is just this Liquitex medium. And there we go, there's that blue. So let's get that put on him. Blocked into where it needs to go. Now normally I do metallic first, paint the inside out, but since we're doing this on just the normal colors, that's what I'm going to be. I'm just going to do it this way around first. Just so I can keep these videos kind of on topic, otherwise they'll go all over the place again like they did last time. So I'll get his robe. So if we look at his robe, we've got like the brown bits here. So let's see, again, make sure that even if you think your layer's weak, it doesn't matter. Make sure you have an even layer, because what you'll do is go over and give it another one. Remember, these paints are not army paints. If you're looking at them going, well, wait a minute, they're gonna look like that, but you'll be surprised how it can end up. Plus, we're not painting for Golden Demon, although we do want them to look good. What is that on this? Well, he's got something up there. I'm gonna leave that. That's not gonna be blue. See, the blue is actually just like a yellow does. It's kind of misbehaving. That's fine. That's how we learn. That's how we get used to them. So I am... So it's on there, and I'm going to let that dry and probably give it another coat. And the second coat I'm going to, because we know it's doing what it's doing. And that's the thing. Larger areas are harder to get nice. Just because of the way the paint acts. But it's not a big deal. For example, the sash looks pretty good. But the cloak, because it's such a large area, getting it to cover can be a pain. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great. However, to keep in mind is we are also going to ink these at the end, which will wash away many mistakes and sins. And I'm going to let that dry. And you can kind of see the folds and the shadows. It's not brilliant yet, but let's let that dry and see what happens. Alright, so that's dried. Now, the camera can't see this as well, but that doesn't look brilliant. I mean, it would look good if it was a weathered, like, Ranger's green cloak. It would look good. But it isn't. So it doesn't. So what we do is grab the blue and just give it an equal going over. Make sure you keep it an even coat. And again, it's you make the paint work for you. So if what I mixed for you is too thin and you don't like doing it like this, makes it a bit thicker. I tend to go with thinner than I need to start with, or the front's fine. I'm going to leave the front the way it is. So there we go. There's his uniform blocked in. Mostly. So next we're going to do, I'm going to paint these gloves, probably a grey, but I'll do that off camera, because you don't want to watch me mix every single bloody colour. And then once I've done that, we're ready for the metallics. So I'll do these gloves and these boots off camera, and then next video will be metallics. Thanks for watching.
Like and subscribe, or the Inquisition will come pay you a little visit.